Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're calling in from today. Welcome to today's Quick Byte webinar on accessibility by design, breaking barriers for crafting inclusive donor experiences. My name is Elise Haynes from TrueSense Marketing, and we are so glad that you are here to unpack this important topic with us. If you can hear me loud and clear today, let us know what your favorite kind of donut is in the chat. That's what we were talking about while we were doing a quick AV test right before we got on the line. So if you have a favorite donut store, place that we should try on our travels, let us know. I'm a Krispy Kreme girl. So, just like tried and true, chocolate icing, sprinkles are great. So thanks for joining us. Yes, sprinkles, Katie. I hear you. Blueberry. I don't know, Tyler. We'll have to talk about that later. Without further ado, I'm going to pass you off to today's presenters.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Elise. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Megan Sharon. I'm an integrated strategy manager here at TrueSense Marketing, and I'm joined by my colleague, Amanda, who's our associate creative director here. And we're here to talk to you about accessibility. And the real question is why, right? Why are we here to talk about this? And the reality is it's a crucial topic that gets overlooked a little bit. We have 26% of the US adult population living with some sort of disability. 1 in 10 live with some sort of cognitive difficulty, 1 in 7 with mobility issues, and 12 million US adults 40 years and older have some sort of vision impairment. So think about what you interact with daily. So we're talking elevators, escalators, ramps, your computer that we're having this webinar on right now, your phone, crosswalks, all kinds of transportation. These are convenient for some people, but they can be life-changing for someone with a disability. In comes the Americans with Disabilities Act that was instituted in 1990. And this required businesses to provide accommodations and modifications so that accessibility and equal opportunity for all people. So that includes all of those public accommodations that we just mentioned, communication signage, information and assistance, and equal opportunity. So accessible workplaces and assistive devices, and even just being able to work from home like we are now. So why digital accessibility? Especially in the fundraising space, we really want to look at how people are giving. And right now we're seeing a massive trend showing that online giving is the preferred method for most donors in this day and age. And we're even seeing that preferred method trend shifting a little bit even by generation and age, as you can see on the right-hand side. In comes the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which is the online version of ADA, essentially. So it provides some guidelines so that web content can be more accessible based on 4 principles. So we're talking about things that are perceivable. So can people see or hear the content that you're providing? Is it operable? So can your donors navigate your website in a way that they expect it to? Is it understandable? So can users understand the content and how it works? And even robust. So does your content follow and work with different technologies now and in the future? So think about your digital fundraising programs. We hopefully all have them, right? So we have a website, our donation forms, our emails. How are people experiencing these things in a way that's accessible to everyone? And how can we improve that digital experience? And for that, I'll hand it over to Amanda.
My name is Amanda, and I use they and she pronouns, and I'm Associate Creative Director at TrueSense Marketing, and I have a background in graphic design and fine art. I just want to take one moment to express my most sincere gratitude for your attendance today. I think that now more than ever, that this work shows your commitment to your donors and your audience and the mission that you serve. I'm going to talk a little bit more about my background. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I've been a professional designer for more than 20 years, but I've been involved with art my whole life. That is me at 4 years old with an apple Santa that I made from a craft book that I absolutely insisted on making. That was one of my first art projects. But the event that shaped my interest in accessible design was my diagnosis with MS in 2010. I'm receiving a Tisabri infusion here, which is immunosuppressive therapy. And for me, having MS means dealing with motor issues in my hands and feet. I'm an illustrator, and it was a real challenge for me to relearn how to draw after my hands went numb. I also struggle with symptoms like fatigue and cognitive delays. I spent the better part of a decade coming to terms with my illness, and it wasn't until I realized that I could use my experience to be a voice for others, especially those with invisible disabilities like mine, that I was able to reconcile those feelings and proudly call myself a disability advocate. Now that I have told my story, I'd really love to hear from you. I want to create some kinship and give you the opportunity to make your voice heard. We're going to do a little group participation activity, and this is the time for the live poll. And I would love to know your goals for accessible design. Where are you looking to improve? You can participate in the live poll if you click down at the apps on the bottom, or you can just tap some notes into the chat if you don't see your poll there. And you can vote while we begin to walk through the next steps. So as we talk about equalizing the digital landscape, I want to talk or walk you through an interaction that I experienced recently. I get a lot of solicitations as an art director, and I'm going to click through to do my best to convey in PowerPoint format and emailed across my desk. So we'll go. This thing just kept scrolling and scrolling. I've anonymized this message to protect the original sender, which was a photography vendor. This email was designed to take me on a visual journey, a robust feast for the eyes that demonstrated the artist's striking dedication to composition and their personal mission. But I didn't see any of that. What I saw was this. Because, like a third of the population, I don't see images in email. So, how can we avoid making similar mistakes when delivering messages to our constituents? That's digital accessibility. So, certainly disabilities like blindness come to mind, but I also urge you to consider auditory, motor, and cognitive impairments like the ones that affect me when assessing your digital plans. There are donors in your file with all different levels of ability, and I want you to be able to include them all in your messaging. What we're really asking you to do when you consider digital accessibility is to put yourself in someone else's shoes. One of the first ways that we can do that is to consider color. Say you've got a great image with a nice contrast between the background and the subject, but for someone who is colorblind, that image might look like this. One of the ways that we can improve visibility is to use color blindness simulators to ensure that color isn't the only factor that we're using for differentiation in our images. If you're using Photoshop, there's a great color blindness simulator built right into the program. You can see that this next image here retains more of its contrast even when processed by the simulator. And it contains more contrast than the photo with the apples. I'll do that back and forth one more time. Another way that we can use color in our communications is by using those ADA compliant colors that Megan mentioned. Compliant colors have a high contrast ratio between the background and the text, which increases readability. Here we have a great image, and we want to create some text to overlay on top. But what color to use? I'm going to show you these iterations, and we can do another quick live poll. Which do you think is the most readable, A, B, C, or D? You can take a good look and note your answer. You can participate via the chat or again in that live poll. So I am going to show you the best way to check your colors for compliance is to use an online color checker. There are many, many ADA color compliance checkers available out there, and most will display a ratio or a pass-fail rating. You can see here that the black text overlay is highly readable and great for accessibility. But I also want to show you how the other colors compare and how low some of those contrast ratings are. It's really, really low on the white text. I feel like that's a really tricky color to use. The color compliance checker that I'm showing here is called Coolers, and it's my personal favorite, but I've linked a bunch of options at the end of this presentation. I encourage you to find your favorite and bookmark it for easy reference. You will use it all the time. I use it every single day. But what happens if your colors aren't very accessible? Say you have a great logo. It visually communicates your organization's message. You've invested in your brand equity. It's on your signage, your vehicle wraps, your t-shirts, but your color compliance ratings just don't work out well. Work with your brand team or do your research if you are your brand team. Find your heroes. Search out those color combinations that work well and that meet those color compliance checkers. Or find a complementary color that is accessible, that works with your color palette to support and balance your existing brand. Now, I know brand departments can be sticklers for colors. So if you need additional incentive, use those color compliance checkers on your brand colors and present that to your team. Mention that you may be excluding users with your current design. And if that doesn't sway them, give them my email and I will personally present this presentation to them because everyone deserves to be included. Here's a lovely way that you could execute an email using an accessible supporting color for the hyperlinks and buttons that retains your brand. The logo and callout graphics feature that standard brand color, while the buttons and hyperlinks are built with the new highly visible supporting swatch. Went past that slide a little fast. We get a good color compliance rating with that purple there. And because those call to action buttons are so important to digital communications, let's make sure that they are the most accessible that they can be by making them bulletproof. Bulletproof buttons are hard-coded into your email templates with HTML rather than relying on an image. They always display correctly, they're easy to edit, and they give screen readers a script to follow. Because you can have the most beautifully designed buttons with drop shadows and glossy effects, but those are going to fall flat if most of your users can't see them. When designing CTA buttons, go bold. I know a lot of fundraisers don't like to make those gift asks seem like they're shouting, but for someone like me who struggles to get their thumb to interact with their screen, especially on a mobile device, a bold button is a sure thing. This example shows a great target for those with limited mobility. Another tactic that we can use to ensure visibility is short scannable copy. The copy should be part of the body of your message rather than being part of an image. Left-aligned copy is easiest to read, and simple sans serif fonts work best for digital applications. We'll talk more about that further into this presentation. Short paragraphs help readers stay engaged, especially those with attention difficulties. You can see here how the copy-dense version compares with the scannable version. Keep your copy reduced to small bites. I think about how much better that email I displayed at the top of the presentation would be if it only contained a scrap of copy. Now, let's make that short, sweet copy readable. There are two basic types of fonts, serif and sans serif. Serif refers to those little feet on the ends of the characters. Now, it's been a long-standing belief that serif typeface, like the one used on a newspaper, are the easiest to read. But for digital mediums, a sans serif font usually works best. Look to reliable favorites like Arial, Helvetica, and Verdana for emails that stay true across platforms and devices. When we're using copy as an image overlay, we want to be mindful of how much we're adding. A bold headline can add great interest to a hero image like this one, but adding too much text decreases readability, especially on a mobile device. The next slide here shows an example of how all that content really shrinks down on a smartphone. So keep it brief. Another text-based tactic to improve accessibility is alternative text. Alt text is one of my favorite accessibility tips. It is a bit of default copy that displays when an image cannot be shown. Without alt text, your screen reader may read out an awkward file name or nothing at all. Imagine if that photographer's email had displayed something like visual photographic journey of sweeping landscape vistas instead of a blank space. I'm going to show you some examples of how default text appears when your images are turned off. I'm sure that some of you are used to seeing this in your work emails as a security measure. The first example here has a lot of text that is integrated into the image, and the button is also part of that artwork. But when images are turned off, little remains of that messaging. A more accessible design would include robust and descriptive alt text, a visual hierarchy of HTML coded headline text, and a bulletproof button. This solution is much more readable for screen readers and other assistive devices. You can see this version retains more of the message and displays robust alt text. Writing alt text can be tricky, but here are some tactics that I use for short, accurate descriptions. Don't repeat existing copy, like the subject line or headline text. It can sound like a mistake to screen readers. Be brief and add some fundraising language. This is a really cute example that we use for Harold the dog for the Giving Day message. And I want to show you a few different executions of alt text for fundraising that have effective descriptions, but also include a warm, heartfelt touch. You don't want to invest all this time crafting donor-centric copy and then lose your reader with overly clinical alt text. This is Melinda pictured with her baby boy, grateful for the cancer care she received at City Hospital thanks to your support. Zena the dog smiles with her tongue out. Helping pets can help her, like her, can help you at tax time. You're going to want to make sure to include any text overlays that you have in your image or graphic with your alt text. Aaron C., a Braille student, is shown seated with an iced coffee. Above him is a heart graphic ×2 in the headline. Empower twice as many people. Now, with an image like this one, you want to be careful about how literally you're typing that text overlay. A screen reader will likely read that as X versus times. So make sure you either spell out the word times or use the proper multiplication symbol. If I'm ever in doubt, I run my copy through a read aloud function and listen to how it sounds. I use that right in Word, and I feel like that's a very helpful tool. You can also use the same guidelines for alt text on social media posts, adding that content as descriptive copy at the end of your message. I find that it not only benefits those with low vision, but also provides helpful context for individuals with cognitive difficulties or neurospicy brains like mine. I've linked a few in-depth articles that I really love about alt text in the links section at the end of this presentation. All right, let's put it all together. We're going to take one more look at a before and after of an email that prioritizes accessibility. Here's our first email. I am going to pause on this slide for a few moments so that you can take a look. This is like our accessibility pop quiz. So this one's just in the chat. I don't have a specific live poll for this one, but I want you to take a look and see if you can spot some common accessibility errors. You can pop your comments into the chat once you start noticing like where we can improve on this one. We're going to look at the same email with images turned off. We're losing a lot of our most important content in this view. Next, let's look at a version of that same email that is optimized for maximum participation. We have the bulletproof button. We have a bold HTML coded headline rather than a text overlay. We have a readable sans serif body copy, an HTML styled list that retains its formatting across devices and platforms, and it closes with another bulletproof button. I've also updated this little hero image, and what I'd really recommend here is an animated GIF that shows Brody the pup thinking about all the different kinds of great support he's going to get, like a treat, a ball, a cozy bed. We're going to take one more look at the optimized version with the images turned off. And we're retaining all of our important messaging in an easy to read format. Since we just considered some motion content, let's talk more about that. If you have video content to display, I highly encourage you to pursue captions and voiceover for maximum reach. There's a big push for auto-generated captions, which are great, but they can come with some unwanted inaccuracies. If you have the capacity, I recommend building your own captions or subtitles to ensure that your messaging is properly conveyed. Additionally, you can use custom text treatments to emphasize your messaging. Adding voiceover to videos that don't already contain spoken audio is a great way to maintain equity for all users. My partner happens to be a nationally recognized voiceover artist, so I have a preference for all the nuance and warmth a human voice is able to bring. But there are auto-generated voiceover techniques available. So if that is what works with your capacity and budget, it is certainly a viable option. I'm going to show you a video. I think we have the YouTube link for this one. And if you're watching on demand, you can click in the links menu to watch this video. And this is, oh, awesome.
This is Teddy. He can find joy in every day. He can sense when someone needs a friend. Teddy can love with all his heart. But Teddy can't walk without help. It's hard for a pet like Teddy to find a place in the world. So can you find a place in your heart? Sponsor Teddy. Make a monthly gift to provide ongoing care, so a pet like Teddy can live and love. Join us as a sponsor today and save more lives like Teddy's.
So that's a great way that you can combine both of those elements in a very graphic and engaging way that doesn't just look like captions running on the bottom of the screen. Did we lose our slides? Oh, they're perfect. Okay. I mentioned at the top of this presentation that I am from Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh is famous for its big sandwiches. This is a Permane sandwich and has French fries and coleslaw right on top. So I thought, what better analogy to leave you with at lunchtime than a big Pittsburgh sandwich of accessibility. I want you to think of these tactics as building a big sandwich. Each time you deploy an email or write a social media post, add something from the list. You don't have to incorporate everything at once. Try some alt text on your next communication. Test a highly readable font. And at every step of the way, test your tech. Test your email designs by viewing them at your desktop and on your mobile device. I send myself emails and graphics all day long. I'm constantly checking everything on multiple screens all the time. Run your newly created PowerPoint presentation through a color compliance checker. Your teammates deserve accessibility too. Try out the screen reader that is compatible with your system. Apple's default is called VoiceOver, and Google uses one called Screen Reader. There are lots of tutorials available online for equipping the screen reader on your device. They're usually set through the Utilities or Settings menu, and there are also third-party systems available online. The more familiar you are with accessibility features, the better your decisions surrounding accessibility can be. We're going to try one more live poll before we finish up, and this one's called, What's on Your Sandwich? Tell me what accessibility initiative you are going to try on your next project. What's going to be first? And while you're adding your comments to the chat or in the live poll, I'll pass it back to Megan to walk us through the next part.
That I love Amanda's part so much. I feel like I don't contribute too much to this until we get to Amanda's part, and it's just, I love seeing all of it in action. So how can making these changes, even just picking one out of the sandwich, help your digital program thrive? And the reality is it can improve and lift things in such a way that you might not notice at first. So if you're using alt text on your website, you're going to see some improved search results because that has impact on your SEO, therefore your paid search and your organic search. Donation forms emails, you're going to see some higher click-through rates, some lower bounce rates, and better deliverability. You're going to have some increased video completion rates and social engagements, and really you're going to have everyone be able to enjoy the experience online. So why is all of it important? Like I just said, diversity, equity, inclusion, and we can add accessibility to that list. We don't want to leave people behind, and we want to make sure that everyone is able to be included within the online donor experience. I'm a West Wing fan, so this is technically a GIF, but obviously it's not going to show up. The question is, what's next? We just threw a lot of information at you, and we know. So just a couple of things to take away. Educate yourself. We have a lot of resources at the end of this presentation that you are welcome to explore or do some research on your own to figure out how to best incorporate some accessibility measures within your programs. Take those small bites, like Amanda said. Nothing is going to change overnight, but just doing one step at a time, you're going to be able to see some incremental change within your program. And find a partner if you're able to. So talk to your software reps, talk to those online chats within Meta or your email platform, and get some tips about how you can better incorporate these things into your already existing platforms. And that's all we have. This is our list of resources. You are welcome to scan that QR code if you're feeling like scanning a QR code. Not everybody likes to do that, but
Yep, it's also in the apps and in the links, and it's in the actual presentation as well. So you're covered on all aspects of that.
yes.
Wonderful. Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, Megan. There's one question in the chat for you to just speak a little more to if you can. Heather asked, can you provide some background about the 1 in 3 people who can't see digital images?
Oh, sure. So some of those people do struggle with different abilities, but a lot of folks also have security parameters set on their email settings, and that will default to not showing images. And so that's a really helpful thing to consider as well.
Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, Megan. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we'll hopefully see many of you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.